Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston Sports Podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. And back on the show is one of our favorite Rocket analysts, the co-host of the Bradeaux Will Show, Rockets analyst Bradeaux. And great to see you, first of all. And how weird is it that we've now gone 4 days without a Rockets game? It's like the old school all-star break, Bradeaux.
Yeah, it's been an interesting season. The Rockets have only played 21 games. I Bleav that's the least amount of every NBA team so far. And they just played 5 games in 7 nights, and they're still like dead last in the league in games and fewest back-to-backs and all that stuff. So it's definitely interesting, especially with the new in-season tournament, the big breaks, especially if you don't make it. So it's an adjustment. But yeah, it's weird not having basketball.
Should we just blow by the Mavs loss? No Şengün, Adams, Tari, Finney-Smith, 4 rotation pieces. Frankly, Bradeaux, I was shocked our friends at FanDuel had the Rockets as a 7.5 point favorite going into that game. I was telling everybody on X, guys, it's easy money.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's the only game this year I've missed. I went back and rewatched it. My pop's 65th. So I was like, okay, if I miss any game, it's this one. So no real takeaways from my rewatch, but I'll have a few. But like it's not like the end of the world that they lost that game.
Yeah, even I thought, okay, if they win, are they really going to win by a blowout with all these guys missing? So we'll skip that. I've been a little frustrated with Reed Sheppard's aggression in the last couple of days. Bradeaux, he's got to take double-digit shots or it's not worth having him out there. In the last 5 games, he's averaging only 8.4 shots. In the previous 9, he averaged 12.4. So that's 4 more shots a game that he was doing, double digits every night over that 9-game stretch. And even though his shooting is down, he's still hitting nearly 41% from 3. So it's not like, oh, he's slumping that bad. That's why he's not taking the shots. It's hard to know if this is on him, the players, or Udoka, but I assume the coaches are reminding him that he isn't out there for his defense. What do you think is going on here?
I just think it's, getting used to playing with the main guys, especially if he's out there with Şengün and KD at the same time. The offense isn't going to be flowing through him. We saw him excel in the month of November, but especially in game against Golden State where all eyes were on him and he was running the show and he could do anything he wanted out there. And he put up 25 shots, which was pretty much double the shot attempts he has in any other game. And of course, that makes sense with no Şengün and no KD playing, or maybe I'm blanking, but he went off in that game. I just want to see him stay aggressive. He can get to that mid-range shot extremely well. He's very savvy in that range. Obviously, the 3-point shot is butter right now. He's making, it seems like every time he puts it up, I think it's going in. So I would like to see him stay as aggressive as possible. And especially when he's on ball, I like the facilitation. He had a really nice skip pass in the corner to Aaron Holiday in that Mavericks game. And he's had a few skip passes like that. So I'm impressed by his vision. So more on-ball touches and being aggressive and looking for his shot are things I want to see from him in the future. But I agree with you. I'd like to see those shot attempts go up.
I talked a little bit about it before, but as you were talking, I was just thinking about this. Do you like him starting at this moment? Because I made the point of, well, yeah, it's helpful that he starts with, all the guys that we have missing, but at the same point, with all the guys that we have missing, I almost prefer him coming off the bench because he gets a little timid when he's out there with Durant and Şengün, and the Rockets need the scoring off the bench with no Tari right now.
Yeah, I don't mind him not starting. I'm actually cool with him coming off the bench. And I actually agree with my co-host, Will, from the Bradeaux Will Show. He says if you're going to start Reed Sheppard, just start him. And if it's going to be fluid, like Udoka is kind of running it, then just leave him on the bench. And I think he's probably going to be more aggressive coming off the bench anyway. We still haven't seen this team fully healthy. I Bleav when Dorian Finney-Smith comes back, he'll be the 5th starter. So I don't think there's any rush to start Reed Sheppard. He's probably best utilized again when he's not, playing 2nd or 3rd fiddle to a KD or Alperen Şengün, even though he can complement them really well being a spot-up shooter. But I think Reed is more than a spot-up shooter. He has a lot of talent. So to see him maximized, I'd like to start seeing him get some of his own units to really orchestrate the offense. So I'm cool with him coming off the bench. I'm curious to see what you would say.
We agree on that because I just feel like at this point, he's just, he gets timid, Şengün and Durant, when they're playing with each other, it seems like he gets lost in the shuffle. They're doing their 2-man game. And, I want to see Reed with the ball in his hands as much as possible because I just don't feel like the Rockets have figured out a way to utilize him as much as they should off of screens and that sort of thing. So, but I also am curious what you guys out there think. So get in the comments. I want to hear, where you are on the Reed Sheppard situation. Should he start? Do you like him coming off of the bench at this point? Also, if you like Bradeaux coming in on the show regularly, let me know. Give us a thumbs up. If you like him as a guest, we'd love to get a thumbs up from you. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the Rockets at the quarter pole of the season, Bradeaux. Of the 5 young core players, Sengun, Amen, Tari, Reed, and Jabari, which one has taken the most important leap so far?
Yeah, we just talked about him, but I'll have to say it again. Well, I'll say the Sengun, the consistency that he's had, points, rebounds, assists. He's really picked it up in that regard for sure. Obviously, playing with KD helps, but I like the consistency he's had. But and Tari Eason, I'll compliment. He's out, but the 3-point shooting has increased as well. But I'll say this: Reed Sheppard for sure was most important with Fred VanVleet going down. And regardless, they were going to need Reed to step it up eventually, even if Fred was there. They drafted him in the top 3. You got to step up and show you could start eventually for this team. And I was hoping it was going to be by year 3. It looks like it can be by year 3. He looked, again, spectacular in the month of November. Everyone was buzzing about him. And again, I mentioned it, but that Golden State game, like he just looked like a star in the making. So I think he for sure had the most important leap. And I mentioned it. I'd like to see him maximize on ball. I got to see the facilitation because Houston's going to need a game manager. I'm not going to say he's going to be a game manager by the playoffs, but I mean, hey, eventually that's what we'll need him to be for this Rockets team. And he's getting extended reps with Fred out. So I like the progression we've seen from Reed. That's definitely been the most important. He's helping this team for sure in this 15-6 start.
The flashes have been extraordinary at times. The consistency is, something that you got to see from him, but he's a young guy, second year. So that's part of the equation. I'll just say on Jabari, Bradeaux, he gets sort of lost sometimes in the shuffle, but I've been a little bit frustrated because I keep thinking there's more to his shooting. I know he's not going to be the Klay Thompson with height that we thought he might be when he came into the NBA, but I just thought, okay, let's inch a little bit closer to that 40% 3-point mark. And we haven't seen the shooting just quite get up to where I was hoping. I keep looking at it and I'm like, yeah, this kind of looks like it was before. But I do love the fact that he is more aggressive because he's still, he's still really good shooter. And one of the things that we're starting to see, and this took too long, Bradeaux, for him to do, but I'm glad he's starting to notice that he's really great around the free throw line. And he's starting to dribble into that free throw line jump shot. I got to see more of that, Jabari. Keep doing it. Like that's something that he can knock down consistently.
I'm happy you mentioned that because I was going to bring up his percentages in the short mid-range. When he's getting around that paint area, he's shooting 55%. So anytime he's in that little short mid-range and he pulls up, I think it's going in every time. And I looked at the shot chart and it's a lot of green in that area around the free throw line. So I like when he gets to that range. Only around 25% right now in the mid-range, outside of the paint. So that's got to improve. And he's also, on the year, it doesn't seem like it. I'll look up his stats on the year really quick from 3. Last I saw, it was 38%, and he needs to make more of the open ones. It just, off the eye test, it feels like he misses so many open threes. And he's going to get a ton of open threes with this team, just playing again with Sengun, who gets so many double teams, top 10 in the league right now in doubles, and KD, who obviously generates a ton of doubles as well. So if he gets the open one, just hit it. But he's averaging 15 right now, which is good, career high true shooting. So keep that up. But I think he's capable of hitting the open threes, of course. So hopefully those fall in the future.
Yeah, I just got to get in my head, like Jabari, when you shoot, I need to start expecting it to fall when you're wide open instead of like hoping it's going to fall when you're wide open. So yeah, the open shots, and you're 6'11", so you're not exactly worried about somebody blocking your shot, especially with his high release and stuff. So yeah, that stuff's got to be better. Again, get in the YouTube comments. I want to hear from you guys. For those Texans junkies out there, look for our Texans Chiefs postgame show with Houston Sports Radio vet Jason Braddock and the bullpen host Tom Chavaria. We do the postgame every week. It's under the live tab on our YouTube page. And of course, in the audio podcast feed as well. And yesterday I had Texans Probe host and analyst Jacob Barzilla, some good Texans serious Super Bowl talk with Jacob. And yep, got to get serious about that Super Bowl. I'm talking Super Bowl and Texans in the same sentence. Yes, we're doing it. And also don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube with notifications so you can get updates on all of our content. Also subscribe on your favorite podcast app. All right, Bradeaux, according to our friends at FanDuel, the Rockets have the 3rd best odds to win the title behind OKC and Denver. No surprise there. The Rockets 10-1 if you want to wager on it. But here's the deal, Bradeaux. Can you see a formula for beating OKC? They're 23-1, despite being second in the NBA with most games lost to injury. Jalen Williams has only played in 5 games, their second best player. SGA, he's even better somehow this year, 44% from 3. That's a 7% jump. And he was already awesome.
That team is scary. That team is scary for sure. In their win streak, I want to say they had won like 10 straight, and each one was by like 15 or more, something like that. It was like the longest win streak of that stature, like in NBA history. I was looking it up. But hey, they didn't have Jalen Williams in that first game. We took them to double OT. So it was a good game. I think the formula for beating OKC is having a bunch of lengthy, versatile defenders, and that's how the Rockets have built this team. I'm excited to see what we look like at full strength. We haven't seen them with Dorian Finney-Smith yet. Obviously, we've had Tari Eason missing time as well. But it's going to be tough. That's a team you need to be at full strength to beat. So with Fred, it was doable. I can see a 7-game series. At this point in time, I can see 6. But, hey, that's a tough team to beat. And if they lose to them, you can't be upset. I'm not saying the season is lost, but OKC is amazing. They've been doing is not normal. They have the best net rating, I believe, in NBA history right now. A defensive rating that is far below the rest of the league. So it's a tough team. And SGA, the amount of games that he sat in the fourth quarter, and he still leads the league in clutch points in the fourth by a wide margin. Again, tough team to beat. But the Rockets have the formula. Again, you have to have lucky defenders, the guys that can stick on SGA and Jalen Williams, the size to dominate, of course, in the rebounds with any team, but that team particularly, second chance points, they're first in the league right now. You got to maximize those. So that's how they're going to have to beat them. It's doable, but very, very tough. So we'll see. What do you think?
The key is, guys that we're not seeing right now, Tari and DFS, because you're going to need all these wing guys because you're going to have to try to slow down, SGA and Jalen Williams. So that's going to be part of the equation too. Hopefully, you can use your size a little bit. Of course, it's not like they're small either. They still have, the 2 big guys there with Hartenstein, and, maybe Chet's injured. Maybe you get an injury break in the playoffs. You just have to, be playing well and hope the injury thing happens good for you. At this point in the regular season, I think the Rockets should just get a W because you played OKC and you made them play SGA in the fourth quarter. So if you play OKC and get them to actually play SGA because it's not a blowout in the fourth quarter, that should just count as a W. Like in the NBA these days, or you should get like a half W for that one. Hey, we made them play SGA in the fourth quarter. That's a W. But anyway, they're incredible. I don't know. This is like a historic season already, and you're like, well, what happens when the injury bug hits? Well, injury bug's already hit. It doesn't matter. It's like a machine. I guess one guy that might help you out, and I want to ask you about this because it's been a storyline all of a sudden. It's popping up again in the last week or two. Are you at all interested in a midseason trade for Giannis? I'm not sure if it's even possible without Şengün's contract, I should say. And how much does his calf injury scare you, Bradeaux, considering these calf injuries turn into Achilles? That's the other part that everybody's going to have to factor in to any kind of deal for him.
Any Giannis trade we'll first have to start with him. Wherever he wants to go is where he ultimately will be sent. He'll probably have like a few teams that he'll want to go to. So if the Rockets are on that short list, that's not a conversation. But I don't see that being a trade. For the Rockets to make it, they'd probably have to throw in Fred VanVleet, and Fred VanVleet has a no trade clause. I know how buddy he is with the org. Him and Udoka, they box in the offseason. They're best friends too. And Fred has mentioned time and time again that he wants to be here long term. And outside of Dillon Brooks, who got traded by association, the Rockets do right by their players for sure. So I don't think they would trade Fred. And it would be a Şengün trade probably. I think ESPN proposed it. It was Şengün and Fred in the 2027 first. I just don't see it as a possibility. And starting with Giannis, I don't think he would even want to go to Houston. I think it's the Knicks right now. Maybe Atlanta. There's some GM ties there. But to your question about the calf injury, Giannis has had some issues in the past. He's missed some postseasons. I don't know if the calf will be a problem, but I'll say this. He's been in the top 3 or I believe top 5 in MVP race the last 7 years, averaging around 31, 11, and 6 on absurd efficiency. The mid-range shot looks like it's there for him. So I got to give him all the praise in the world. He's looking spectacular. And on a bad team, it reminds me of that Rockets team that kind of just fizzled out, and James was like, hey, I'm gone. Get me out of here. So I think that's what's going to happen And if I had to predict, I think it's going to be the Knicks.
The big thing for me is, you could say, oh, you can't give up Şengün because he's got 10 years. Well, we know it's the NBA. You think you've got a guy forever, and then in a year and a half, he's like, I want out of here. I hate it. I'm disappointed. I know everything's going right for the Rockets these days. Everybody loves Udoka. It's all good. It's all happy joy and all that sort of stuff. But man, things change in the NBA so quickly. I mean, it happens in a skip of a beat. And it's just like I always tell people, it's like try to go find those champions that don't have a top 5 guy on their roster. Giannis is one of those guys. You can hope and pray that Şengün turns into that. He's looking more and more like an all NBA, but he doesn't look anywhere close to Luka or Jokic or SGA or all these other guys that we're talking about. And he's got to be able to score, Bradeaux, when you face off against the best of the best in these tougher and tougher defenses the further along you get in the playoffs. And that's the story there. And we're going to get to Amen in a bit because, he might be your hope also for top 5. But, it's a situation where, you at least have to start thinking about it if you're the Rockets. And I don't see it as a regular season move for the Rockets, but potentially with Jabari, because I think that's an asset that they might covet. And that's one I think you can afford to give up in the offseason. That money goes up to his new contract, $25 million a year, Bradeaux. So maybe that's a piece that you can give. And, you mentioned Fred VanVleet, the no trade. I talked about this with Ben Dubose on the show last week, and he said, yeah, it's not impossible that he would forego the no trade clause. He said it's not as much of a no-go as you might think it is. And he can want to be here forever, but come the offseason, we know he's probably going to be here not more than another year. I mean, that contract only runs for a year. It's a player option. But beyond that, you would assume they're hoping that Amen and Sheppard are ready to take over at that point.
There is an aspect. I've been listening to Fred's podcast, and he mentioned he likes the shorter deals to kind of see where you're at and assess where the team is at. So, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, if the Rockets want to go in a different direction, I'm sure he won't just say, hey, I want to stay here. He's not going to say, I want to stay here if y'all don't want me. So if it's like that, then it's like that. But I do think that Stone wouldn't trade him. That's just kind of where I land. I don't think they're going to make a move for Giannis. It depends on the depth that they'd have to give up. I know you mentioned not breaking out the core. And again, it's okay getting the KD because you only lose Jalen. So you still got your 5 young guys, right? So I would just be curious to see what the deal looks like. Obviously, Giannis is a top 3-2 player in the league. So it would be a ridiculous move. Be curious to see what happens. But, yeah, I just don't think it's a conversation for me personally. So I don't think it happens.
Yeah, there is a year and a couple of years where if you made the trade and you were able to keep everybody, and I say everybody, Şengün, Amen, KD, then it becomes a little bit of a money thing. It's like, how can we juggle all this? Because you're going to pay Giannis the full max. You got Şengün on his deal, and then Amen all of a sudden that fun max, the rookie off-scale max is going to be there, along with KD, obviously. So, that's part of the equation. Let's get to Amen because that's somebody else I want to hit with you. Where are you on his season? His free throw percentage up 80%. So incredible stuff from him there, but everything else is down, Bradeaux. True shooting down 6 percentage points, rebound, block, and steal percentage all down. Despite no VanVleet, his assists per 36, they're only up 0.8, while his turnovers are up 0.5. It's not egregious, his turnovers, but he had 6 against the Mavs, and there's a lot of ones that I'm just like, is he still making these turnovers? What are you seeing with him?
Yeah, of course he's getting more on-ball reps this season with Fred being gone. I don't want to use that as an excuse for him. I think he's much more talented than what we've seen this year. Again, the defense is still, spectacular. Not the amount of stocks he had last year against steals and blocks. But I don't know. He's missing bunnies now. The percentages in the restricted area are down. What's most important too, I think, being a guy like who can get downhill as fast as he can, you have to have an in-between game to a sense. And believe it or not, last year he shot 45% from mid-range, which is pretty solid. And he was much better in the paint, non-restricted area. Now he's only around 31% in the paint and not in the restricted area. So that floater is almost non-existent. The midi is not there. And the corner 3 is 20% down than the year before. Last year was 37% in the corner, which is pretty solid for Amen Thompson. Now he's around 17%. It's like, And above the break, it's not hitting as well. So teams are like, hey, we're letting him shoot. I liked what he said on me today. He said, hey, I'm feeling confident in my shot, and I believe him. He probably worked on it harder than anybody, but it's just not falling right now. So that's what is most important for him. Maybe he's in his own head. I like to see, as you mentioned, the free throw shooting is at 80% right now on 4 attempts a game, which is really solid. That's really sometimes it's an indicator, like, okay, maybe the shooting will progress. So it's good to see, but I'd like to see it progress to the floor. We are a quarter of the way through the season. So we'll see what happens. I won't take any major takeaway right now, but I think there's a much better player inside of Amen Thompson than what we've seen. We'll see. But yeah, those turnovers, he's got to cut those out too. He had some bad ones in that last game.
Wasn't expecting a miracle as far as a shooting increase, but one of the things that I just am shocked about is the defense is just not what I consider Amen's defense. There are times too often where I see him one-on-one defense, and that guy scored too easily. Amen was not giving up that score that easily last year, and everybody's like, oh, well, he's on the ball more. He's got more that he's thinking about or what. I'm like, he's not on the ball that much. Like sometimes it's him bringing up the court. Sometimes it's Reed bringing it up the court. Sometimes it's Şengün, KD. Everybody brings it up the court. There is no one guy that's always bringing it up the court. So I don't know if there's that much pressure. They're getting him back to the dunker spot a little bit more, which I think is where he really does his best. And I think the Rockets offense is at their best. I just got to say, I got to see more from Amen. He's probably of the core guys, the guy I'm most frustrated with right now, from this year to last year, or last year to this year, I should say. We always talk about the players making improvements, Bradeaux, from year to year, but we rarely get into the coaches. And I want to give Udoka and his staff credit for turning into one of the best teams on the coaching challenge. If Rockets fans don't appreciate it, Bradeaux, then they're not a Texans fan. You got the polar opposite with D'Amico. I got to watch him screw up challenges. He has a 22% success rate and hasn't won a challenge, when I looked it up, since the first season as a head coach. But Udoka is making progress. As a coach, we saw the first year, he just wasn't doing real well with the challenges, but I love that. Is there anything else that you're seeing with him, or what do you think of what you're seeing from Udoka this year and their staff?
If you just heard that audio, that was me looking up an Udoka stat, so I apologize for that. I was supposed to be on mute. But yeah, he's been excellent with the challenges this year. But also the stat I just looked up that I saw a while back was the Rockets are the best team in the NBA at drawing up after timeout out of bounds plays. They're scoring at will, highest rate in the league off of timeouts. And they're drawing up plays. So again, that's a huge credit to the coaching staff. From what I've seen from when he came, I like that he always will roll with the hot hand towards the end of the game. If someone is playing bad, he plays no favoritism outside of probably Fred. He had some favoritism towards Fred. He's going this year. But I'll look at that last game again. Reed had 3 straight turnovers. Call timeout, he was gone immediately. I think he only played a minute 30 in that stretch. So I like I like the way he operates. I'll say that. And again, you have to credit the after timeout plays out of bounds. And then, as you mentioned as well, the challenges. So I think he's been excellent as a coach this year. You have to applaud the 15-6 start. They have a top 5 or top 3 offense and defense that I have to check again after that Mavs game. But they've been excellent in my personal opinion.
No question. Yeah, I can't come up with a complaint much from Udoka and the staff this year. I mean, just the other thing is you see all these guys getting better. I mean, that just says so much about where they are. I mean, it says about the guys, the offseason work that they put in, but I also know the coaching staff has had a lot to do with that. Last thing I wanted to hit with you, you're out of the viewing area for the Space City Home Network streaming, but I'm wondering what you're hearing from Rockets fans. Are you hearing from a huge percentage who will buy streaming? And have you heard anything about the recording options? Does it have a DVR type setup to record? Any reviews on it yet?
No, that's a great question. I usually watch my games in playback, but they are actually discontinuing playback as of Friday this week. So I need to look into it. You said out of state you can't watch, I'm assuming. So obviously I haven't heard too much about it because I didn't look into it.
Oh yeah, no, what it is there's, I guess it's like maybe the typical states that you would be able to get it regionally. So that maybe a couple of the surrounding states, I think it's like part of New Mexico, Oklahoma. I'm trying to remember, but it's that typical, regional stuff. And to me, that it's kind of a cop out. It's the NBA being a little bit greedy on their end, where they want people to use League Pass. And it's not fair to the NBA viewing public, I think, to make them want to do League Pass when, hey, I'm just a Houston. I like Houston sports. I just want my Rockets and Astros and stuff like that. So that's the only thing that I can gripe. But otherwise, I mean, this is a Christmas present for the fans because I know so many people that just like get me off of cable, and they weren't necessarily happy with Fubo either. I don't know about you. I hear usually not good stuff about the Fubo option because that's the only other option that I know of, outside of the classic cable and satellite stuff.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people excited to get rid of Fubo. So I'm curious to see how it works. I know my parents, they talked about they're definitely going to be jumping on that package. So good on them for finally making one. I've heard a ton of complaints about, not being able to watch the Rockies. So it's good to see at least that they made a solution.
If you're out there and you're using it, hit me in the comments, because one thing I'm curious about is what is the recording like? I've heard you can't play and pause stuff during games. Does that mean you can't record the game and then, halfway through the game start watching? I want that option. I like that option from my DVR at this point. There's a lot of times where I just, you're busy with something and, I know everybody else, you got a life, you got kids that you're dealing with or whatever. So having that pause option, having that DVR option is a great option. Any final takeaways from you, Bradeaux, from where the Rockets are right now? Anything that has been on your mind?
Only thing I want to say is, again, I'm happy with the 15-6 start. We'll see what happens. 0-2 and back-to-back so far. Again, can't take much away from that last one. But I did not like that loss against Utah. So we're going to have 12 more back-to-backs. They're going to have a lot more games than the rest of the teams in the league in these upcoming, 61 games that they have left. So we'll see what they do. Hopefully they get healthy, and I hope they get a top 2-3 seed, because ideally you don't want to see OKC and Denver in the same playoff. So maybe someone sneaks in and Denver falls to 4. But yeah, I'm content. I'm happy with what I've seen. Just excited to see the guys fully healthy. But more importantly, happy to be back on the show. I appreciate you as always. It's been a good time. Like I said, as always, just let me know whenever you want me back and try to make it happen. Sorry, I was busy. But again, I'll make it work whenever.
No problem. Yeah, we tried to connect around Thanksgiving, but obviously things pretty crazy around the holidays. Let everybody know what you're working on and how they can connect with you.
Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Bradeaux NBA. Much more active on TikTok now. I'm trying to work on each platform, so you can check out some game breakdowns there. Outside of that, I do live shows every Tuesday or Wednesday at Rockets Collective. Everything can be, if you go to one of my channels, you'll see my link tree and you can find all my stuff there. But that's everything for me. Again, Robert, I appreciate you for having me on.
Before we go, just want to thank our friends at FanDuel, FanDuel.com, the place to go, or download the FanDuel app. Thank you so much, Bradeaux, for the time and the insight. Always good to talk to you.
Likewise. Thank you.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.